So, hey, good afternoon. Josh Whitfield with Content Marketing Media. So, pretty excited today to talk about some breaking news. And you see it on the top of the screen, and I think it's warranted. And I think it just further speaks to why Octave is what Octave is. And I want to congratulate them on their $5.5 million seed round, which they announced this morning. And it just gave me inspiration to really talk about why we use Octave and why it's embedded into all of our clients' workflows and really just get people to understand the impact that Octave is making on the go-to-market motion in so many different ways. So as you see on the screen, the headline really kind of says it all, is that outbound really isn't broken. It's just people's approach to it is, right? And Octave helps solve that problem in so many different ways. And so I'm going to just kind of give you a deep dive today on how we use Octave, make it a little bit raw, and just show you really how we've incorporated it into our campaigns and why it makes so much of a difference. And so if I get into our Octave instance, you can see from the get-go that Octave gives you, a really good breakdown of how to build out different things like agents and playbooks. We also have multiple different instances for our clients, which is a really nice feature. And the premise of Octave really kind of comes down to building the brain of your organization. And so if you look through our setup here, we have all kinds of different playbooks that we built out. And we have different products and personas and use cases and reference customers and segments. And you can see all that over here on the right as well: products, personas, use case, reference customers, segments. And then we'll just pick a typical playbook here. Let me go into like one of our core ones here, right? So if we get into content marketing media lead gen, Octave then takes with our input and really builds this out. So I can start off and use the power of what's on my website to build out a playbook, but I think more importantly, I could use anything from Gong transcripts to, case studies to Google Drive, whatever I want to use to build out a robust playbook. And Octave allows me to do that. And simply put, I'm building up a brain about my ICP, about my product, about the buyers of my product, those personas, the capabilities. And Octave is just built to allow me to do that. And if I go further, I could even build qualification questions. And you'll see this a little bit later when I talk about the agents that we can use. But all in all, you start off with a playbook, which is what you see here. And I'm going to dive into them a little bit more. And I'll just pick this one. But this is a practitioner playbook where I'm going into a very specific ICP and talking about regional marketing. And I'm able just to build this out further into specific roles like chief marketing officer, head of media buying, vice president. And when you dive deep into this, you see very specific use cases around ROI being hampered by low quality leads, which that really does apply to many organizations, to inefficient decisions around media buying, et cetera. So there's a lot of information, and we have a lot of playbooks in here, as you can see. But Octave has really kind of become the brain of our outreach and our clients' organizations. And then from that, we build agents, right? So imagine having a sequence agent, an agent that can enrich a person or a company, a content agent, qualified person, qualified company, prospecting agents. And so I'll just dive into a few of these and show you what we can build. We built out campaigns. We're building out copy here. We're able to test that copy. We can test it with recent profiles. We can test that with website information, name, company. So as we build out these agents, and this is a content agent, then we're able to create messaging from those same playbooks. As I showed you all of our different playbooks, we can build out messaging. We can use different models, generate unique subject lines, talk about reading level. And this is critical when it comes to communication. Tone. We can do that from the perspective of giving it samples. I'll just delete the samples here. We can use Octave's default methodology. We can use our custom methodology of copywriting combined with Octave. We can do purely custom instructions, right? But all of those are options that ultimately allow us to generate very professional content. And I'm going to show you it in real time. So we'll pick Zach, who's the CEO of Octave, as our example. And before I ever pipe this agent to a clay table and do this with any kind of frequency, right? I can come into Octave and I can build out messaging that I can test and iterate on. And so imagine instead of, just going into ChatGPT and coming up with some kind of messaging, that you have literally a platform that does that, built off very specifically what you do, that understands your business, that understands the persona.